To the Point with Michael Williams.
The impact of the coronavirus pandemic taking a historic toll across our state. We talked to a local congressman as you look at the concerns and the unemployment program that is going nowhere fast. So many frustrated in Florida trying to get help to apply for benefits, asking Governor DeSantis for immediate action on improving the unemployment benefit process. Good morning and welcome. Governor DeSantis says the state's working to beef up computer capacity to handle claims, rolling out an app to help those seeking benefits, and adding workers to man the phones. We welcome Democratic Congressman Alcee Hastings, his 20th district, representing an area stretching from parts of West Palm Beach to Fort Lauderdale. And Congressman, we thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you so very much.
Congressman, we're going to listen just briefly to what the governor had to say about the growing frustrations among those who are finding themselves newly unemployed. Please listen.
We are in a situation where people have lost their jobs, they're looking for relief, and they're having a lot of difficulty. Some people were on this site, it was timing out, you'd go hours and hours upon end, and it was just totally unacceptable.
Congressman, everyone at least agrees with that. It's totally unacceptable. The week ending March 28th, nearly 227,000 Floridians had to apply for unemployment benefits. What are you and others in the Democratic congressional delegation pushing for, and how are we going to get this sorted out? Because every day we're getting flooded with calls. I know your office is. What are we going to be able to do about it?
Absolutely, and I appreciate very much you bringing it to the attention of the public. We have, led by Congresswoman Lois Frankel, plugged in to the governor's office repeatedly, but Lois's direct letter that Ted Deutsch and myself and all of the South Florida delegation that our Democrats are on. So let's start with Michael, and I'll be very brief. This particular problem, before we got to COVID-19, arose when now Senator, then Governor Scott, scaled down the unemployment office so that his numbers would show low unemployment. As you have indicated, not only the significant number of people that are trying to deal with unemployment, if you take the statistics today and multiply them around the country, you're talking about 17 million people unemployed, 6.6 million seeking to get in. Now, I don't know why this office is in the shape that it's in, but clearly the governor is mindful of it, and my hope is that they will straighten it out, because people are hurting. In addition to the circumstances regarding not being able to apply, when they do apply, we need to extend from 12 weeks to 26 weeks the amount that they receive, and we need to increase the amount that they receive. Presently is $275, and that's just simply not fair that we are doing this. It's always the least of us that get caught up in this kind of tangle. So I'm mindful that the governor is aware. I hope that he employs the necessary IT and other persons to straighten out the site so that people can apply.
Congressman, of course, you all can push from your perch in Congress, but ultimately it will have to be the state that deals with this. As we look at other issues, and we know that political heat and push will continue, and we continue to follow it here at the state level. Talk more broadly about where we stand and what you want to say to your constituents on other issues as we look at this coronavirus crisis, how it's impacting Floridians, where we are as we try to bend the curve on cases. What are the chief messages above and beyond the one you just gave that you want your constituents to know about in terms of what we're doing, what we need to do, and what more help is on the way?
All right. As we are speaking, ongoing are efforts to increase the amount of money that is available for loans. That is one of the key areas that Democrats have focused on. And Senator McConnell is quarreling with the Democrats who want to increase the amount of money from $250 billion in this particular tranche of emergency money. We want to increase it by $125 billion through community-based financial institutions that serve farmers. I'm especially worried that small farmers have been left out of the opportunity to get loans, as well as family people, women, minority, and veteran-owned small businesses and profits in rural and tribal, suburban, and urban communities here in Florida to be able to access that. And $100 billion for hospitals. I find that we are way behind, Michael, on testing. And I don't understand how, unless we have universal testing, not just for the Palm Beach County and the coastal communities. We need the entire state and this entire nation to be tested and to get to the antibody area before we can stand businesses back up.
And
in the meantime, people need to shelter at home.
Shelter in home. It's a key message that many are arguing. We can't afford now to let that curve bend upwards again by not sheltering. And you spoke about the critical need for testing. There's been a lot of debate about why we've not in this country been able to spool up testing in a more concrete, universal way. And we're learning now that nowhere is that more important, and it's important universally, but we're seeing that the infection rate and the critical care needs in many ways are hitting the African American community harder than any other. What specifically are we doing? What more can and should we be doing to deal with this issue that we're beginning to see in the data that's coming out in places like New York and New Orleans and other major cities? What can we do about that?
We need to focus on the structural areas of discrimination in this country. This didn't just arise. We do know that the various morbidity core issues are significant in the African American community, particularly diabetes and related respiratory issues, and that is what's causing the coronavirus to target them. But listen, Michael, we've been discriminated against in housing. We've been discriminated against in education. And it has been all of my life and career that this invidious discrimination in the African American community now comes to fore, and we are able to see it here in Florida as well as elsewhere. The key thing we need to do is gather the statistical data, and then once we are letting funds into our respective communities, we need to make sure that everybody is insured and can access health care.
Congressman, no, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, that was it.
Congressman, I wanted to ask, and again, thank you for joining us. It's easier when I have you right next to me as we're talking. We appreciate you bearing with us via the phone, social distancing for the health of all of us. I do want to ask a question that is political, but it all goes to the issue of the vote this fall. Of course, now we're looking at the presumptive nominee, Bernie Sanders, suspending his campaign, Joe Biden, against President Donald Trump. And the question will be, as we look at coronavirus, about getting people out to vote. Democrats are pushing for near universal ability to have mail-in ballots. You've heard the president pushing back hard on that. Let's listen in part to what the president had to say, because this is crucial when it comes to turnout and the debate about how to make sure as many voters get to the polls, Republican, Democrat, and Independents, in the fall with the coronavirus hanging over us. Let's listen.
Mail ballots, they cheat, okay? People cheat. Mail ballots are a very dangerous thing for this country because they're cheaters. They go and collect them. They're fraudulent in many cases. You got to vote. And they should have voter ID, by the way. You want to really do it right. You have voter ID.
The president already pushing back hard against the idea of mail-in ballots and a big increase in that. Democrats pushing for it. What do you say to the president? What do you say to voters? And what can we anticipate this fall?
I say to the president that his comments fall in the category of hogwash. Listen, in the state of Florida, Republicans dominated vote by mail in the early 2000s, and even as the margin narrowed, they've beaten us Democrats in recent cycles. And in the 2018 general elections, Republicans returned 54,000 more ballots by mail than Democrats. So I don't know what Trump's problem is. He voted by mail. I voted by mail. And a lot of us who find ourselves in circumstances, I don't begrudge the fact that he voted that way. But for him to continue this particular effort, rather than encouraging vote by mail through our paid and volunteer efforts, I want him to ask Joe Gruters, who is a longtime Trump ally, what his party has been doing in an effort to turn the vote out. I can tell you this, in the state of Florida, we have had vote by mail for a substantial period of time, and I know of no example where there's fraud. The president formed a commission after the last election, had a gentleman from either Missouri or Kansas in charge of it, and they went all over this country looking for fraud, and there was no fraud. What happened just recently in Wisconsin is a disgrace. That should not be the case, and it seems to me that rather than want everybody that is eligible to vote, that my Republican colleagues find themselves in the position of feeling that they're going to lose an election because people vote by mail. I want everybody that is eligible to vote here and around the United States of America.
Congressman, in our remaining moment, a final thought on coronavirus, and I would be remiss if I did not ask you. You have publicized your own healthcare problems fighting pancreatic cancer. How are you doing, sir? How are you protecting yourself? And in our brief moment left, your final thoughts, both for your own health.
Thank you.
Give us an update and your final message to your constituents.
All right. I'm 17 months out from diagnosis. I transferred my chemotherapy treatment here to Florida. The most recent scan that I had, the tumor had shrunk, and the doctor told me that it is stable, and quiet was the word that she used. So I told her, if it's quiet, then I can be noisy. I'm running for re-election. I feel great, and I'm hopeful and thankful that I'm in the position that I'm in. I appreciate you and your program, Michael. It's so important that the information that you give us on Sundays and throughout the week with reference to the ongoing crisis, but I'm fine.
Good. Congressman, we wish you and yours good health as we all come together to marshal our way and marshal our forces together to come through this coronavirus crisis. We wish you good health, and thank you for taking time with us today. Congressman Alcee Hastings.
Thank you. God bless.
Coming up, Bernie Sanders suspending his presidential race, and now what does it mean for Joe Biden and President Trump as they'll face off in Florida? Ahead.